The microphone? Microphone?
Can the back hear me?
Yes. Use the microphone. Yes. Microphone, because my camera cannot hear you. Is it still on?
Doesn't want to switch it.
Oh, it's fine now. Thank you. Okay, we'll be presenting on German Expressionism, specifically the Cabinet of Dr Caligari. So Carmen will do the introduction, and I will talk about the style, and Faraz will talk about the influence of the film.
Okay, so basically you look at the synopsis first. Okay, this is a log line. Yeah, okay. Basically for Act 1, I'll basically tell you the whole story until the ending, so it's a bit.
Oh no, you shouldn't. Let them
Shouldn't?
watch. Yeah.
Okay, then.
Just a brief summary of what it's about.
Okay, basically it's about this guy called Francis, and he and his two other friends went to a carnival, and then they saw this guy called Dr. Caligari, and then this Dr. Caligari claims that he has somnambulist, which is like a sleepwalking person that can read the future. So basically everything revolves around this Dr. Caligari guy. Yeah. Okay, the background information. This is a silent horror film, and it is one of the most influential German expressionism film.
Like for those of you who don't know what expressionism is, right? Expressionism, like according to my understanding, basically is like it uses like the visual frame to get an emotional response from the audience. And the cool thing about expressionism is, I was supposed to talk about it later, but never mind. Like until this point, right? Most of the films which came out were either like slapstick comedies or romance films or dramas. This was the first film which decided that film can be more than entertainment. That it can tackle the themes like psychology, madness, insanity. So what? Oh yeah, I'll give you a bit of history as well. German expressionism. One of the main reasons it came up with was German filmmakers realized that at that point, right, they didn't have that much money or resources to compete with Hollywood in terms of like their scale. So what they decided was, instead of just competing them with the scale, what they would do was they would use symbolism in their film to expose deeper meanings and emotions to their film. So that's how Dr. Caligari came up. That's how Nosferatu came up as well.
This film was basically made in 1920, so it is set to portray like post-war conditions of Germany after World War One. At the same time, it also like brings out another message that it foresees a new revolution, which is the Hitler's Nazism thingy. And then also this story was inspired by a sex murder, which is a true story, and also an experience with a military psychiatrist. It's believed that the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari invented twist endings. So like, yeah, twist endings. And then the camera movements weren't that fantastic, but then it's more about the visual in this film. Like they have the designs of the sets, and then sort of like a transition was involved also. And then also magicians and carnivals were very popular in this film and in that era, which is something like a manipulation, a message brought across. Biography of the director. His name is Robert. Born in Bla. Studied law at University of Berlin. He has a brother, and his father was a successful theatre actor. His brother was also an actor. And then he started acting in small roles, and then later on he became a director and a writer at the same time. He helped to write and direct this film called The Weapons of Youth. And then in 1990, he began the production of Dr. Caligari. He actually tried to reproduce another film, which is similar in style with Dr. Caligari, but it actually failed financially and artistically. And then he also built his own company called the Leonardo Film that produced another great movie which was directed by him called that one. Then after that he passed away 10 days before he started another film called Ultimatum, but since he passed away, his friend helped to complete the film. He has made over like 47 films. And then here are the cast for the movie. Conrad Veidt is actually well known for playing the role in Casablanca called Major Stresser, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, and then Dr. Caligari was actually inspired by the military psychiatrist's experience. And then for Jane, the only female, yeah, sort of, she was inspired by this actress called Gilda Langer, who's one of the writer called Karl Mayer was in love with. So it's based on, it was inspired by that Gilda woman.
Okay, I'll be talking about production as well. Okay, the production of the film actually started all the way in 1918, where the writers, Janowitz and Mayer, actually started to conceptualize the script during the winter, the cold winter day. Okay, so they decided that film medium was actually the best way to convey the message of the film, which is about German pacifist movement, as well as other things that you'll find in the film, which is the human mind and all that stuff. Oops. Okay, so originally the script was intended to be sold for 10,000 marks, but because of the producer, he wanted a bit of because the production itself was quite expensive, so they settled for 4,000 marks because the writers themselves were actually quite desperate to sell the script. And then they originally there was with the buying of the script by this what do I call that, this really rich guy. He owned a company, but I can't really remember. Oh, Erich Palmer, the head of production at Delca Bissell Corp Company. He bought the script for 4,000 marks. And then they decided that the best way to make this film was through an experimental style because of two reasons. One of them is it was interesting for the producer, as well as it was because they were actually not very financially stable, so it was the cheapest way to do it as well. So when they approached the director, they actually approached two people. The first person was Fritz Lang, who is another director. But he couldn't commit to the film because he already had prior commitments to another film called Die Spinnen, also known as The Spider in English. So they approached Robert Wienen instead. Okay. So after they approached the director in 1919, Herman Wurm, Walter Raymond, and Walter Rohrig was actually approached to do the set design for the film itself. So if you watch the film, you actually notice that the whole set is actually very painted. It's not actually very painted. It is painted. So the set design is actually painted by Walter Raymond and Walter Rohrig, who were painters, and Herman Wurm actually was the designer. So in 1919 again, the shooting for the script started for about a month, and interestingly, 2 years later, from the writing stage, they actually had a film premiere. But before that, the producers felt that the film ending was a bit too morbid. Why, you will find out later. And they decided to change the ending. Of course, the writers felt that this was a big injustice to the film. They said they were raping the script because it diluted the message of the film. But then the producers just went through with it anyway. The writers actually wanted to sue the producer for changing the script, but everybody knows that the producer always wins in this context. So actually it premiered in Marmor House in Berlin, which is one of the most prominent film theatres. Interestingly enough, that this theatre house actually rejected the film at first, and then when they sent it back, it got critically acclaimed, which is quite famous lah. So after premiering, it actually got really good results from the audience, and then it went around, such as New York and all those places. So when they went around, they actually added new things inside the script, which is the prologue and the epilogue by a new character of the film. And although some critics went for the premiere and they felt that this was a good thing as well as a bad thing, so some of them were for it and some of them were against it, but ultimately it was still implemented into the film itself. So in 1922, there was this book written by Arthur Sinclair called The Comic Carpenter, and involved this character in the book who actually discouraged people from watching the film because they said it did not serve the purpose of art, so-called lah. Okay, so today critics feel that the influence of the film is actually still spreading because it influenced today's horror film as well as noir films. Okay, film style.